Alright guys, how you going? Sorry it's been a little while since I've uploaded, but I've just been busy with life and work and everything. So, again, sorry about that. Let's get into Texas. Let's get into the issues that we're facing in Texas, what we've been seeing in Texas, and what Texans have been going through. This is coming from a native Texan who lives in West Texas. Now, I grew up in Central Texas, but I now live in West Texas, and my city was one of the cities, one of the very few places in Texas that was not affected by power outages. Yeah, we got snow and ice, but we didn't really lose power. I think a total of 12 people lost power. That's it, compared to the rest of the entire state. So, that being said, let's get into the video. Now, Texas lost power, the ERCOT, Electric or Electricity Reliability Council of Texas, which definitely needs to be fixed. There's even people on the council that don't even live in Texas. And there's some rumors going around about it that I'm not going to get into right now because it's rumors and nothing's fact. But that being said, a lot of people did lose power. And a lot of people were not prepared for it. My aunt was one of them. She lives in Central Texas, and she lost power for about 4 to 5 days or so. Now, when given the opportunity, a family member sent her money to go out and buy a generator. She didn't do it, and she even said, I wouldn't even know how to use a generator. Okay, well, that's just, sorry to say this, just kind of plain ignorance. People should definitely know how to use a generator. It should be common sense, but I guess it isn't. So, she was alright though. I mean, she did get her power back the other day, and I had a friend donate firewood. So, she was able to stay warm because she had a fireplace. Not a wood stove, but she did have a fireplace. And guys, a wood stove is definitely going to be better and more efficient at heating than a fireplace. And you can cook on a wood stove. But let's get into Texas. And a lot of people in Texas don't have gas. We all, we're pretty advanced state. We're a pretty modern state. And a lot of things are electric in Texas, including our electric production. So we have like renewable energy, windmills and solar panels, and a lot of them were frozen over and ice covered or snow covered. So that's one reason why the grid failed. By the way, if y'all didn't know, ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, is the Texas grid, if you didn't know. Because we also do have nuclear power plants, and one of them, I believe, had a frozen sensor which forced the power plant to shut down due to safety protocols. So that's another contributing factor to why we lost power. But there's a lot of factors into why we lost power. I'm not going to get into all of them because I don't want the video to be longer than it already is going to be. But let's get into preparedness and why and how a lot of Texans were not prepared for it. Now guys, we were given ample notice about this storm, these storms that we're going through. And it's not like Texan supermarkets were lacking in food until obviously the storm came and everyone started panic buying. Now guys, if they had already had at least 1 month's worth of food, then, it wouldn't have been as bad as it was. There would have still been some food on the shelves for people who needed it. Instead, everyone went in and started panic buying and hoarding food and water. H-E-B, one of Texans' best grocery stores, one of my favorite grocery stores in Texas, which we don't have in my area, but nonetheless, it's still one of my favorite grocery stores. H-E-B started putting out a limit on certain items that you could buy. Again, that's because people were unprepared and they were panic buying. reason, in my opinion, that people should have been panic buying. You know, if you had, you had enough time to go and get food and water, stock up before the storm. And, there was multiple days of notice. You could have gone to the grocery store, and picked up a few things each time and not running them out of stock. Therefore, more people could have had the opportunity to get food and water and the things that they needed. So there was major food shortages during the storm because of all the panic buying. Now, water, a lot of people's pipes froze. There was pipes that burst, and there's not a whole lot that you can do about that. So, I mean, you could leave the tap dripping, I guess, to help prevent it, but eventually if the temperature gets so cold, it's gonna freeze over anyways. So, if you lose power, you can still, if you suspect that you're gonna lose power, I would recommend, you fill your bathtub, fill it up with water, or, if you have a water bob, fill it up with water, fill a bottle, get bottles of water, but, store water, as much water as you can, because, guys, again, water is essential. 3 days without water, and you're done. And my aunt lost power for 5 days. That's 5 days, that's more than 3 days. So, water is a very important one. You can go 30 days without food, but you can only go 3 days without water. Remember that. So, if you do lose power, you cannot boil water. Just remember that it's 8 drops of scent-free bleach per 1 gallon of water. So, you're going to have to do a little bit of math here, but it's potentially life-saving. And there's plenty of videos out there on YouTube that explain how to purify water with bleach. I know it sounds kind of weird. Obviously you don't want to drink bleach, but you can still purify water using bleach. It's 8 drops of scent-free bleach per every 1 gallon of water should purify it. Let's talk about the roads and everything now. So, guys, the road conditions in Texas were very, very, very bad. Much of the state had severe road conditions. A lot of the state was not drivable. We do have snow plows. Regardless of what some people say, we do have snow plows. We just don't have a lot of them. But we do, regardless, we still do have snow plows. Now, we don't have enough snow plows. So that's the thing. That's the issue. We don't have enough. We don't have enough for a major section of I-10, let alone the entire freaking state. So, that being said, the roads were very bad. And I do believe at the beginning of the storm, there was that, I believe it was like a 100-car pileup, and I don't even know how many people died in it. But that's just proof right there. That should be enough proof that if the weather gets bad and you're down south, don't go outside. Even if you can drive in the conditions, it's still probably a good idea just to stay home. Even if you grew up and spent most of your life living in northern rural Alaska. Just because you can drive in the conditions doesn't mean the guy driving that Ford Excursion down the hill doesn't know how to drive it. what's to say he's not going to lose control and slam into you with that big Ford Excursion in your little bitty car. Now, I'm not saying that you have a little car. I'm just giving an example. But that being said, guys, that should be reason enough for you to stay home. There's really, most people weren't going to work because most businesses didn't even have power. So there was really no reason for you to be going anywhere on the roads. And a lot of roads were actually just closed down. So one thing that we can learn is don't go on the roads if you don't absolutely have to. Another lesson that we should have learned was keep at minimum 1 month of food and water. Minimum. I recommend 6 months to a year, but minimum 1 month of food and water. That way you can make it through it. That's non-perishable. That's food like canned food that's not going to go bad if left out of the refrigerator or freezer. There was a lot of people that had to, take their refrigerated and frozen food items and put them outside so they didn't go bad. And that's not, obviously, I've had to do it living in Massachusetts. I've had to do that as well because I've lost power. And up in Massachusetts, you can lose power for a few weeks. So it ain't that bad. It's not that big of a deal. If you have to put frozen and refrigerated food outside, just make sure you do it in a sanitary way, in a cooler or something like that, and leave it in the elements so it stays cold. That's just common sense. It's colder outside than it is in the refrigerator. When you're frozen and refrigerated food outside, just make sure that it's not going to get taken by any animals or people for that fact. So, guys, there's another pretty disturbing thing that came from this storm, and that was the amount of people that died and how they died was disturbing. Now, I heard of a mother and daughter that, they lost power and they tried to warm up via their car. Now, they didn't open the garage door. And obviously, a car produces carbon monoxide via the exhaust. So what happened was they died due to carbon monoxide poisoning. And that's something that shouldn't have happened. If she had taken the time to even open the garage door just a little bit, let in fresh air, then that whole tragedy right there could have been avoided. There was some guy that froze to death in his recliner, and that's disturbing because that shows me there's really no effort into staying warm. Guys, even if you don't have a fireplace or a wood stove, there's still different ways that you can stay warm. Guys, you can even set up a tent inside your house with a sleeping bag, and it'll help keep you warm or warmer because your body obviously produces some heat, and it's going to take less heat to heat up a tent. It's going to take less energy to heat up a tent. So you're going to stay warmer inside of a tent in a sleeping bag than you would inside your frozen apartment building. So there's just different ways that you can stay warm inside, and it's disturbing how some of these people died because they froze to death or they died of carbon monoxide poisoning. It's one thing that can happen if you use your stove, your oven, then you can die of carbon monoxide poisoning. So guys, definitely invest in getting a carbon monoxide detector. And the Angry Prepper does a lot. Has talked a lot about that. He's a firefighter over in New York City, so he knows his shit when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, guys, this is one of the disturbing things, and I really can't understand how somebody could think that sitting in a closed garage in a running car is a good idea. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So, guys, a few things to take away from this video is a few things to take away. Don't heat up in a running car in a closed garage. That's just stupid. It's dumb, dangerous, lethal. If you are going to waste gasoline or diesel via your vehicle, do it outside. Do it in the open, fresh air. Always have, at bare minimum, 1 month worth of food and water. That's non-perishables again, guys. That way you're not running to the store and emptying the stores, or you're not a contributing factor to emptying the stores. Remember, don't rely on your pipes for water. So again, guys, when I say 1 month worth of food and water being an external source of water, not from your home. To have water stored, because pipes can freeze and pipes can burst, leaving you without water. A key takeaway on the driving factor is don't go out and drive in this unless you absolutely 100% have to. And one thing I recommend, even if you have a two-wheel drive vehicle, is go invest in tire chains. Invest in chains for your vehicle. It's not expensive. They're not that expensive, and they're going to help a whole lot in the wintertime. Just make sure that you know what you're doing when you're using them. Make sure you know how to install them. And remember that it's unsafe to drive with chains on over a certain speed limit. If you have a two-wheel drive, you really only need 2 chains. If you've got a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, then you're going to want you're going to want 4 chains. Now, guys, another thing that y'all should be taking away from this is you should have a generator, solar generator, propane, diesel, gasoline generator. Just get a generator and know how to use it. Because there shouldn't be any reason that you can't go 100% without electricity. Guys, that being said, I'm going to end it here. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and y'all have a good one. Be safe out there.